Welcome to Decarbonizing Today, a deep dive into the Edmonton metro region's role in addressing the global climate crisis. In this episode, we have your Edmonton Global host, Avash Timsina, here with Candice Paton, the VP of Corporate Affairs with Enhance Energy.
Welcome to Edmonton Global Studio, Candice.
Thank you so much, Avash. It's great to be here and chat with you about our project at Enhance Energy.
Absolutely. And could you share more about yourself and Enhance Energy with us?
Sure. Well, my name's Candice Paton. I'm Vice President for Corporate Affairs at Enhance, and I work with a company that operates large-scale carbon capture, utilization, and storage projects in central Alberta. It probably makes sense to tell you a little bit about Enhance. We've got our start in 2007 in Alberta, and we've been developing a stack-to-geology carbon capture, utilization, and storage system that connects large emitters in the Edmonton region, Alberta industrial heartland, to our storage facility down in central Alberta. And so we can help those large emitters ensure that their CO2 emissions are captured, transported, and then stored in Alberta's geology permanently and safely, and generate carbon credits.
Right. You mentioned stack to geology system. So Enhance Energy's current CCUS project in central Alberta, which is a part of a stack to geology system, which is a leading edge project in CCUS. So my question is, how has the provincial government's industrial and regulatory ecosystem impacted this project?
Yeah, the regulatory system and what the province has set up for Enhance and any CCUS project in this province has been really important. As I mentioned, we got our start in 2007, which is the same year that the Alberta government brought in the very first carbon pricing system in the country. It's called the TIER program now, and it sets a price on carbon emissions that applies to large industrial facilities. And that gives them the incentive to actually reduce emissions by taking action like carbon capture and storage. Right. And so our project really got its inception when those types of programs and those regulations started to incentivize emissions reductions technologies.
Right. Yeah, incentives from the government and others really helps drive that approach to adopting new technology. So to my second question, collaboration between industry, government, and other stakeholders are really essential for any projects, including CCUS, to not just succeed, but to thrive. What insights can you share about building these partnerships, and how crucial are they for achieving a long-term environmental and economic goals?
This is a really important part of any CCUS project because, of course, it involves multiple players. You'll have your large emitter partner or the source of the CO2. And without that partner taking action, there is no CO2 to store in the geology. Of course, you might need to transport those emissions, and having a transportation partner is really important. And then, of course, how to unlock the value in these projects really comes from when you can demonstrate that you have captured and stored permanently that CO2 emission. Right. So at Enhance, we operate in central Alberta. We can permanently store emissions deep in Alberta's geology, and then we have a rigorous process that verifies that those emissions have in fact been properly contained. Right. When we do that, we're able to create a carbon credit, which backstops the value in the whole system. That's really what unlocked the investments in the industrial heartland area near Edmonton with our large emitter partners. The Northwest Redwater Sturgeon Refinery has a carbon capture system built into it right from its first design. And then a nutrient fertilizer facility at Redwater is one of our other upstream emitter partners. And they are actually an example of a brownfield facility that's been operating for many decades in Alberta and was able to retrofit their project to capture carbon emissions.
Right. Yeah, a lot of stakeholders are involved in this. It's not a one-person job. You have transportation where you store, and you mentioned a good point about how suitable this location is for sequestrating that carbon. So what do you say are some of the misconceptions about CCUS as an industry that strives for broader adoption of technology?
Yeah, it's an important question because at Enhance, one of the things that we value most is being a trusted partner that can do this safely and with public confidence. It's a really important part. One of the things I hear a lot about CCUS is that it's new, and we need to study it a lot more before it'll be a viable technology. But I always like to say that we've been injecting CO2 into the ground in various geologies for many, many decades around the world, and so there is actually a significant amount of experience. When I think about Alberta, the Edmonton region, central Alberta, even down into Calgary, we have such a wealth of expertise in this area that we've built from our oil and gas sector. We use the same skills, the same regulations, the same requirements all go into a CCUS project, just like an oil and gas project would use. And so I think about a lot of our operations staff. They've had careers in the oil and gas industry that they're now able to bring into a new industry in CCUS, use those same skills and expertise and actually point in a slightly different way. So the idea that this is something new, I do like to challenge, because it's been built on the expertise we've had in this province for a long, long time.
Right.
The other thing that I hear a lot is that CCUS is a technology. And what I also like to explain to people is that it's not just one technology, it's a suite of technologies. It represents the capture side, and there's many different ways of doing that. There's many different types of emissions that we can start thinking about, whether it's hydrogen or petrochemicals or the agriculture sector or the oil and gas sector. There's different types of technologies that will be used to integrate with those systems. And then there's also transportation opportunities. There's different ways of storing and permanently sequestering emissions from the atmosphere. And so it is actually a suite of techniques and methods used to make the whole system come together.
Right. Our region seems to have more literacy in terms of energy and CCUS. So still a lot of awareness needs to be happen, and I'm sure Enhance is playing a big role in that as well. So how do you see technologies like CCUS balancing economic growth with the need for substantial emission reductions? What lessons can other regions learn from our region's model or Alberta's model?
Sure. The Alberta Carbon Trunkline project, which includes the large emitters, the pipeline itself, which is owned and operated by Wolf Carbon Solutions, and then Enhance's Clive sequestration facility that does the storage. All of those pieces need to work together to make this project happen. And so the trunkline's a neat piece of infrastructure that's quite foundational in the province. And it was the whole project really benefited from some of those early incentive programs in the government, both at the provincial and federal levels, to help get CCS off the ground. And so, again, early in Alberta's CCUS journey, this project was able to receive federal and provincial funding that enabled the trunk line to be built much larger than would be necessary than just for our project. And now that represents a real foundational piece of infrastructure in the province that has additional capacity. And so what's exciting for storage operators like Enhance or large emitters that want to capture their emissions in the future, new entrants will have a lower barrier to entry in this space than we would have experienced, a decade ago.
Right. And Enhance has had a positive impact on every industry. And with more than 5 million tons of CO2 emission permanently stored at their project. So looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of CCUS and its potential to contribute to both sustainable economic growth and meeting that global climate targets?
What excites me most about CCUS in Alberta is that we have the right skills, the right expertise, and the right geology to do this safely and with public confidence. Community stakeholders and right holders all will need to be involved in this, and it's an important technology that serves a real industrial need. We want Alberta to continue to be at the leading edge of industries, whether that's in different clean tech sectors, whether that's traditional oil and gas, whether that's agriculture. And being competitive globally means also being competitive on emissions reductions. And we can continue to do that because of the strengths we've built and will continue to build in CCUS. I think it's a real way forward for the province.
Right. What should industry, government, and regions around the world prioritize as they develop their own carbon management strategies?
I think it's important to prioritize some of the policy certainty around CCUS. Of course, emissions reductions are only going to happen when we're incentivized to do so, when there's a public will to do so. And we need that to be in place. And that comes with things like partnerships, between large emitters and sequestration hubs. It comes to government programs thinking about how CO2 emissions can be quantified and then turned into carbon credits to unlock value for these projects to be investable. It's thinking about carbon credit markets and how they can be healthy to support a thriving ecosystem. And then lastly, really around sort of the safety and security, our regulatory system in Alberta is very, very strong. They work hard to build that public confidence and show us that this can be done very safely and confidently. So I think, prioritizing those types of things are really going to allow the sector to take off.
Yeah. And any last few words on this conference today and what you have seen so far?
It's always such a pleasure to gather in Edmonton and bring some of the brightest minds around CCUS together to have these conversations. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Decarbonizing Today. To stay up to date with the series, make sure to subscribe and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. We'll see you next time for another engaging discussion with Lindy to continue exploring how decarbonizing tomorrow starts today in the Edmonton metro region.